9. In this guide, I'm going to go through tips and tricks and strategies to really unlock the full potential of the Mind Thief. Items are important to every character, but because there's going to be spoilers in them, what I've done is I've organized them by prosperity level from 1 through 9. So my recommendations on what items are going to be good with the Mind Thief kind of come at the end. Watch all the way through and watch all the way up until the prosperity level you're currently at. If you could, please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so that when I publish new content, you're notified. And also, if you could, please go ahead down in the comments, comment on whether you like the build, comment on whether you don't like the build. Both are great. I love to hear that feedback. So, you're supposed to be in the front, yet you hardly have any health. Let's address the elephant in the room. How are you actually supposed to make this work? Well, there's a few different strategies, and the first is managing your initiative. So the Mind Thief has great ability to manage initiative, great fast cards and great slow cards. So what you're generally going to do is you're going to use a go slow, go fast approach. And so you're going to come in, you're going to let everybody else go, the rest of your teammates, the monsters, and you're going to come in and you're going to attack. This is like a first turn strategy. Then the second turn, you're going to go really fast and you're going to attack, and then you're going to get out of dodge. And so the monsters are going to focus, they're going to target on people that are closer. And so you'll be able to get in, get 2 attacks, and get out of the way. This doesn't always work. Some monsters are quicker than others, and they may beat you to the punch. Most of the time, you know, there's only going to be one set of monsters that are faster than you. That being said, you should have a safety valve. And so I'm talking something like shield or being able to go invisible so that when you do get yourself in trouble and you get hit, that you can generally, you know, save yourself from dying by, you know, going invisible, getting out of the way with movement or using shield, something along those lines. The next thing I want to talk about is augments. Augments are not a loss card. And so to increase longevity, you actually may want to reuse them. So for example, you're almost always going to play the Mind's Weakness in the beginning because it's awesome and it's overpowered, especially early on. If you're a level 1 Mind Thief and you're not using the Mind's Weakness, start using it right now. So you're going to play the Mind's Weakness, and then when you rest, you can actually put that in the discard and pick it up and play it again. This is actually going to increase your longevity a little bit. So let's talk about the Mind's Weakness. Every melee attack, it adds +2 attack. Early on, at level 1, and you know, even later on, this is the most powerful card the Mind Thief has. It's kind of crazy, but yes, a level 1 card is the best card. The majority of Mind Thief builds center around this card. There are some other things you can do, but you've got to build very specifically for them. So my recommendation is that you always use the Mind's Weakness, and you should be playing it on turn 1 very, very consistently. And so turn 1, you want to go slow, let your other allies take that aggro, set yourself up with the Mind's Weakness so that all your future attacks are much more powerful. Don't leave home without this card. Hoping you're liking this Mind Thief guide so far. Before we get any further, I would ask again that you like this video and that you subscribe to my channel. Turn on notifications so that when I publish more guides, you're going to get notified. And I've also created another video, and it's going to rank every class in Gloomhaven, Forgotten Circles, and Jaws of the Lion. So go check it out. I'm going to put a link up top here, and go find out where your favorite characters rank and how good they are versus all the other characters in the game. After the Mind's Weakness, we've got Scurry. Scurry is a great utility card. It doesn't look that powerful on paper, but a move 3 on the top is going to allow you to do a lot of cool things. It's going to allow you to change positions and attack at the same time. And the Mind Thief actually has quite a few bottom attacks that you're going to want to use. And so it's great for getting in there, attacking top, and then, you know, using a bottom attack as well. The next one we're going to talk about is Frigid Apparition. When you've got the Mind's Weakness up, this is a repeatable 5 at level 1. I mean, it doesn't get a lot more powerful than that. And if you've got ice up, you're going to be able to stun as well. This is another must-take card, especially early on with the Mind Thief. The next, we've got Perverse Edge. Perverse Edge is great control. When you're in close and attacking, you're going to be able to stun somebody. And it's a repeatable stun at range, and it makes ice, feeding into Frigid Apparition. So these two cards have great synergy. I basically never play the Mind Thief without them because they're so useful. Even at high levels, a bottom stun repeatable that's going to produce ice is actually going to be really good for you. Fearsome Blade is what I would call a semi-useful card, but it doesn't have great initiative. The top attack 2 with the Mind's weakness is 4. It's not bad. It's an attack 4 with a push 3. It's going to be reasonably useful for you. You know, pushing monsters into traps and that sort of thing. But the initiative does hold it back. 27 is not really good enough for the Mind Thief. For that reason, I usually leave it behind. The bottom of Fearsome Blade, move 4, attack 2. That's not really going to be good enough for a loss as well. Next, we've got Parasitic Influence. The top augment can be swapped for a quick heal when you've been using the Mind's weakness and you've gotten yourself into a bit of trouble and there's no other options. So you can quickly swap that in and do an attack and heal. And if you've got a bottom attack or 2, then you can heal for a little bit more. So it's, you know, it's kind of a safety valve. I don't take it a lot. The bottom range for move somebody 1 is okay. The utility is there to push somebody into a trap or move them into a trap, but still not super powerful. Into the Night is a good card for attacking when you're in close. So this would be along the go fast strategy. So you go fast, you go slow, and attack. You get in, you go fast, you attack again, you go invisible. So great strategy for keeping yourself in the fray, but not taking damage. The next is Empathetic Assault. The top is quite good on this as a power move, right? It's range 5, attack 4, producing ice, 2 experience, and it's a loss. So if you've got, you know, somebody who's in the back that you need to kill and you've got some melee enemies blocking you, it's a great card to pull out, you know, when you really need to. Just be careful of exhaustion because the Mind Thief, you know, only has 9 cards. You do have to be careful about exhausting. And the bottom is great utility. Move 2, heal 2 is super handy for the Mind Thief. And at initiative 11, this is a great card to take because you're going to be able to use the move 2 a bunch and heal 2 a bunch of times. And then you're going to be able to use the top when you really need to pull it out. Feedback Loop is just not going to be as good as Mind's weakness. It sounds great that you're getting shield on melee attacks, and it can be handy in situations, but 9 times out of 10, the Mind's weakness is going to be better because most of the Mind Thief attacks are pretty weak without the Mind's weakness. You know, we're talking 1, 2, 3 attack tops. And so you're going from, you know, a general attack of 4 or 5 with the Mind's weakness out to 2 or 3 with, you know, when you've got Feedback Loop, even though you've got shield. It's much better to get in with the Mind's weakness, dish out a bunch of damage, and use movement and shield or invisibility to get yourself out of trouble versus trying to stand in there and tank. It's just too risky, and so it's not worth it. The bottom move 4 jump with a muddle if you land in the hex you're at, it doesn't synergize well with the Mind Thief because generally you're going to want to move around to position yourself away from aggro. And so if you have to end up back in the square you started, it's not really that great. The next we've got Submissive Affliction. Submissive Affliction has terrible initiative. The bottom is good utility. The top works better with Withering Claw, Poison and Metal. So if you're running a Withering Claw build, this card becomes more powerful. And Withering Claw is not bad. I still don't think it, you know, puts out the damage that Mind's weakness does. But if you are using Withering Claw, you know, that Poison and Muddle in 2 attacks, then you're putting conditions on people, and Submissive Affliction can generally be a 4 or 5 attack. The bottom of Submissive Affliction is generally okay, but the problem is that if you've got allies out there, and let's say you go slow, and one of your allies kills one of the monsters, now you've got 2 monsters left and 1 hex in the middle. The card becomes useless because it doesn't have any range on it, and it's only a 2 attack. It is okay when you've got, you know, enemies who have Retaliate. The effect is actually magnified because they're going to retaliate against the enemy that attacked them. So if you're fighting Retaliate enemies, this has more use. The next is Withering Claw, and again, Withering Claw looks good. And it can be good in the right build, but generally the Mind's Weakness is going to outperform it. The bottom, target one adjacent enemy and then move 3 is actually pretty useful though. So generally I use it for the bottom and not the top, because if you've gone slow and then you've gone fast the next round and you're in the fray, you can immobilize the guy you've attacked and then move out of the way so that he's stuck there. So, you know, controlling melee enemies with this card is, you know, it works pretty well. The next we've got Gnawing Horde. And I don't generally take this. The summon isn't great. Summons without range die too fast, especially on higher levels. Like at level 1, this card is okay. But once you're, you know, up and past 4 or 5, the enemies do too much damage. They're going to come in and they're going to make mincemeat out of this rat. And he's not going to last very long. And the damage output, you'll be lucky if you get 4 damage out of it. And he will tank a hit or 2, but still, it's not worth it. And then last of the starting cards, we've got Possession. Don't ever use Possession. It's too situational. The initiative is abysmal. I mean, it's almost as bad as it can get. 51 is completely brutal. Attack 6 for a loss, and you've got to use it on an adjacent ally. I mean, it makes no sense at all. With the Mind's Weakness and Frigid Apparition, you're doing a repeatable 5 with a stun. I mean, there's no comparison. I don't even know how this card got through quality control. And the bottom, one ally within range 3 can perform a 4 move. Doesn't make any sense. At level 2, we've got Hostile Takeover first. Hostile Takeover is a pretty decent card. Good utility, not super powerful, doesn't synergize well with the Mind's Weakness, but on its own, it can be quite useful for controlling aggro and things like that because it's quick and because you can immobilize. So you can, you know, blast it off, immobilize a monster, and, you know, keep it out of the fray. It also does produce ice, which does synergize well with some other cards like Frigid Apparition, so you can use your stun and stuff like that. The bottom is a good emergency situation kind of card, where you use it and, you know, you take a turn from a monster and you use it against an enemy. So not too bad. Can definitely be useful in the right situations. Wretched Creature is absolutely wretched. It deserves its name. It should just be called Wretched Card. Okay, maybe a little bit harsh, but the Monstrous Rat is not a good summon. It's going to die quite quickly. You know, past level 4 or level 5, it's going to die on the first hit. And so sometimes it's going to get no damage. And so you don't want to lose a card for that. I would basically never play this card. The move 3 at the bottom, use Dark to Curse. Whoop-de-doo. At level 3, first off, we've got Brain Leech. Brain Leech is a decent card. It has a bottom attack with a Strengthen, which can be pretty useful when you're really going to stay in the fray. Use a bottom attack, use a top attack. The top is okay, healing and damage. And the initiative, again, fairly decent at 16. Next, we've got Silent Scream. And it's basically just a better Parasitic Influence. And generally, I would only use this card when I've gotten myself into trouble and I need to heal. And damage be damned, I'm going to swap this card out for Mind's Weakness, have a new augment up, and I'm going to use it to heal because I think that I'm probably going to die or have to lose cards if I don't. The bottom, move 3, push 2, and use Ice. It's okay. Okay utility. Generally, I'm going to be using the Ice for stunning instead, though. So, for level 3, we're going to pick Brain Leech most of the time. At level 4, we're starting off with Pilfer. Pilfer is one of those cards that can get you a ton of cash. And if you manage to get in there and don't get killed, you're going to come out with a lot of loot. And you're also not stealing it from your friends, so they're not going to hate you as if you were a scoundrel. It also has a great bottom loss card. With the Mind's Weakness, this is automatically going to be attack 8 and 3 move. Pair this with a couple other mods, you can get in there and do a ton of damage. And then, you know, with a good attack, you're going to have a really strong round. So generally, I use this card when I really need to output some serious damage mid to late game. Next is Cranium Overload. Cranium Overload is also a great card. It has super fast initiative at 5. And also, it can do a lot of damage in the right circumstances. So it's going to kill an enemy, and then you're going to do a 2 attack. And just remember that this is all counted as range. On the card, it looks like the second set of attacks after the first kill are melee, but they're not. You can go check out the FAQ. It is ranged attacks. It's all considered ranged attacks, so your augments don't count. But still a good card. And then bottom, move 5 is really strong paired with initiative 5. So at level 4, you can take either depending on how you feel. And even later on, you may actually come back to level 4 and take the one you didn't take. Level 5, we've got Mass Hysteria. And Mass Hysteria, on first glance, is one of those cards, especially if you're just starting out in Gloomhaven, that looks really good on paper. But it's actually not nearly as good as you think because it seriously impacts your longevity. You know, having 2 separate augments up and then having them sit there. And you either have to leave them out and have, you know, seriously impacted longevity, or each turn you rest, you're going to have to put them in your discard and then replay them. And so it's actually not nearly as good as you think. The top attack is okay in the right build. It does hit a lot of targets, but if you have any shielded enemies around, it's not going to be a great card. It does produce ice though, which helps us with, you know, Frigid Apparition. Next, we've got Frozen Mind. Frozen Mind, if you build around the stun, can actually replace Mind's weakness. You can turn the Mind Thief into a control build, and if you've got some good damage dealers around you, it's actually going to be quite a powerful build. And it's going to keep you safe a lot too, because you're going to be up in the fray, but you're going to be stunning a lot of people. And so as long as you've got good damage dealers with you, this can be quite a powerful build. On the bottom, we've got Force an Enemy to move to. Again, you can move them around into traps and stuff. So at level 5, if I've decided to build around the stun, I'm taking Frozen Mind. If not, I'm pretty much taking the other level 4 card that I didn't take last time. At level 6, we've got Corrupting Embrace, and it's a fantastic card. The top with Mind's weakness is going to be an attack 3 poison, and then because of the poison, it's going to be an attack 4 muddle. So you're going to have a 7 damage attack, and you're going to be muddling, and it's not even a lost card. Very powerful card because of the 2 attacks. Next, we've got the bottom, which is a move 4 jump and poison all enemies move through, and then create dark. Again, this is amazing. I very often love to play this card first turn. The bottom of this with Mind's weakness. So you go slow, you play this, and if you've got boots, you know, you can add a couple move to that. You can poison the entire room, and then everybody else is going to be doing an extra damage to each of the monsters. It's going to help you mop up super fast. And with Mind's weakness, you've now poisoned every enemy, so you're going to be doing +3 damage on every single attack. In 2-player especially, this is extremely powerful, and I generally start out with this move 100% of the time if I'm level 6. Next, we've got another great card in Dark Frenzy. And, you know, if you've got ice and you've got dark up, and you've poisoned somebody, I mean, this is a repeatable 9 damage attack. It's a very good card, and it's going to give you some experience, and you don't have to lose it. And so you can keep playing it over and over again. The bottom has a ton of utility too. You're going to be able to move 3, attack 3, range 3. And so you attack melee, and then you move 3 out, and you attack with that. You produce ice, you're out of range, you're out of aggro range, and the monsters can focus on the rest of your teammates. At level 6, it's a pick'em. I generally go with Corrupting Embrace first, but level 7, which we're going to talk about here shortly, isn't that great. So I would say most of the time I actually take both level 6 cards. At level 7, we've got Vicious Blood. And Vicious Blood is one of those cards where if you don't build around it, it's not going to be very good. So it can actually be a super powerful card if you've completely built around the Retaliate portion. If not, do not take it. The move to attack 2 on the bottom is decent, but generally you're going to have better things to do. Psychic Projection is one of the worst cards, and at level 7, it really makes me sad because it's pretty much at, you know, the bottom 2 cards. That and Possession, I would say, are the 2 worst cards. Heal 5, Shield 1, Stun Self is brutal for the Mind Thief. The Mind Thief is all about movement, Going slow and fast, positioning, and stunning yourself does not fit in with that. I don't know how this card even happened. I hate it so much. There's one thing you can do with this card, though, that can actually make it powerful. So, Mass Hysteria, attack 1, range 4, target 4. You've already got the Mind's weakness up, so that's going to be an attack 3, range 4, target 4. That can be quite powerful, but you've got to have that exact card combo. So in that case, it actually can be useful, but because of the top, I'm not using this card very often. At level 8, we're starting out with Shared Nightmare. It's got good initiative, but it's not a great level 8 card. Initiative 7 is going to help you a lot. Move 5, use ice for 1 shield, can occasionally be useful. The move is good. The shield, generally I find that I'm going to want to use ice to stun for the most part with the Mind Thief. And then the top is attack 3, range 4, target 2. Consume a dark to add poison and curse. It's a pretty solid card. Level 8 though, I would say it's, middle of the pack and below. And then we've got Domination. 1 adjacent ally may perform attack 4, and the attack gains the effects of your augments. Again, you've got to be adjacent, and it's basically, even if you have the Mind's weakness, a repeatable 6 attack, but you need to be adjacent. So it's worse than, other cards. I wouldn't take it. You've also got force 1 normal or elite enemy within range 5 to perform its turn this round and attack its enemies. So a decent safety valve there. At initiative 13, it's okay. But generally, I would take an earlier card over this one. If you haven't taken your second level 6 card, I would take that. But if you do have to choose, normally I'm choosing Shared Nightmare here at level 8. At level 9, the Mind Thief gets the short straw a little bit. Level 9 is not very powerful for the Mind Thief. Phantasmal Killer is a decent card. You can kill 1 normal target, but you've got to have Dark up, and generally I go with Mind's weakness over this, even later on. Or, another card that I've specifically built around, like Vicious Blood. The move to loot 1 invisible self on the bottom is pretty good, but the initiative on this card is kind of a pain, so you've got to pair it with something fast. Many is 1. It's not a good card. The Rat King's attack is based upon his health. He doesn't have range, and if you play this at high levels, he's going to take 1 attack, and then his attack is going to be terrible. He's not going to last that long, even with 9 health. Summons need range, or they need some sort of shield or something that can keep them alive a little bit longer. The bottom of this, in a 4-player count game, can be powerful, because if you're near all 3 other characters, they can add +3 to all their attacks. And if you've got somebody who's hitting multiple targets, like your Spellweaver, you can do a lot. But generally, it's a very situational card, and that's why I don't like it. So level 9, I would take Phantasmal Killer 90% of the time over Many is 1. Or I would take another lower level card that makes more sense for my build. Perks are fairly straightforward. I like to start with the +2 ice one because I like to be able to produce ice. Next, I get rid of all the -1s, or get rid of 4 -1s, swap those out. And then the next is I get rid of the -2 for the +0. I generally try to stay away from the rolling modifiers, especially the muddle one and things like that. And really the only one I go with is the rolling stun. There's a lot that can be said about enhancements, and I could get really far into the weeds here, but I'm going to stay with a few recommendations that you will be able to accomplish with a reasonable amount of gold, because the problem is with enhancing higher level cards, it ends up costing so much that only a hardcore dedicated player who plays the class a lot is really going to be able to enhance higher level cards. So the very first card I'd start with is Scurry, +1 attack on Scurry. It's not going to cost you a lot, and you're going to use it a ton. You're going to get, 3 or 4 extra damage every scenario out of this. Next is Perverse Edge. Add some range on that. Make sure that stun, at 3 range, it's going to be much better than at 2 range. Much more utility for you to stun and then move in. And then Frigid Apparition, just add an attack. And then if you add +1 attack, you've got a repeatable 6 attack when you have Mind's weakness up that you can consume an ice for a stun. And that's going to be really great for you. At Prosperity level 1, I'm taking a Cloak of Invisibility because it's a nice safety valve for when you get yourself in trouble and you may not be able to get out via movement or somebody else taking aggro. Next is the Boots of Striding. We're going to use that to help us maneuver more. And so you can also pair it with Corrupting Embrace so that you can poison more enemies. So yeah, you want movement with the Mind Thief. Early on, and this is going to change later, but I won't spoil anything if you're not at the higher prosperity levels, I like to start out with the Warhammer. If you've got a multi-attack card, then you can stun a couple enemies with it, and it's going to be pretty useful. And it also pairs well with a stun build. Potions are generally a pick'em, but I'm going to start most of the time with Stamina Potion because the Mind Thief only has 9 cards. At Prosperity 2, I like to take the Empowering Talisman because I like getting back consumed items. It makes me feel good, and I generally like to get back things that I'm not supposed to get back. So in this case, you could use it on the Warhammer, use that twice. Or you could use it on my next pick. And this is generally going to replace the Warhammer because it's only a one-hand item. And so you can pair this with something like a Poison Dagger or something like that. And so this item is the Battle Axe. So you turn your one target into 2 targets. Pairs amazingly with Frigid Apparition and the Mind's Weakness. It's going to be 2/5 attacks, and you're going to be able to stun. My next pick is Stun Powder. Again, control so that you can keep the Mind Thief out of danger. And so you're going to use this when you feel like you're in trouble and you're not going to be able to take an attack or you can't get yourself into the right position. And then a Minor Mana Potion is another potion at this point in time that can help because you can create ice with it, you know, help you with that stunning. At Prosperity level 3, there's not a lot. There is the Long Spear, and it could technically replace the Battle Axe, but generally, because it's two-handed, it's not better, so I would stay with the Battle Axe and another hand item. At Prosperity level 4, we've got a Major Stamina Potion, and this is just in addition to your Minor Stam. Helps with that longevity, so it's always a good pick, no matter what build you have, no matter what you're doing. Volatile Bomb, you can use this with Perverse Edge, for a great multi-target AoE stun. At this point, I would take Volatile Bomb and I would ditch the other hand item that I have, whether it's a Poison Dagger or whatever else it is, because having that AoE stun is amazing, and you can get it back with Empowering Talisman and use that Volatile Bomb again. At Prosperity 5, we're just upgrading our Boots of Striding and using the Boots of Dashing. They're just better, more movement. No reason to have the Boots of Striding unless you're strapped for cash. And with the Mind Thief, you probably won't be. And then the next pick I have for this is Ring of Haste. And this is a great pick for any build, for really any class, because it's going to allow you to become more powerful in a faster time frame. So it does impact longevity, but it's still better to use it than not, because you're going to be, you know, attacking more or acting more versus the monsters. And so it's a balance of power shift. At Prosperity 6, the most interesting item is the Reaping Scythe, and it's going to allow you to turn one of your single target melees into, you know, a big AoE attack. It could potentially replace Battle Axe and Volatile Bomb, but I'll still probably stay with Battle Axe and Volatile Bomb unless you're not using, you know, much ranged attacks. At Prosperity level 7, we've got the Ring of Brutality, and it pairs really nicely with the Ring of Haste. Having these two out means you're basically going to be able to play 2 extra cards in the round. It's going to allow you to attack a lot. It's going to allow you to be super mobile. It's going to make you really powerful. And it's really the only way you can make an insane Retaliate build with the Mind Thief work using Vicious Blood. And you can attack 4 or 5 times in a round using Ring of Haste and Ring of Brutality. And you can easily have over 10 Retaliate with some items and some other stuff. So later on, it can get crazy. At level 8, there's an interesting pick here, and it's the Cloak of Phasing. And this is especially good if you're running with a Cragheart, because you can end your turn on an obstacle, and you can become invisible. And you can also fly. I mean, that's super handy for getting over traps and getting yourself out of trouble and that sort of stuff. So really interesting pick here, especially if you have a Cragheart. And then we've got Doom Powder. And Doom Powder you're just going to use for control. It's a straight upgrade to Stun Powder. At Prosperity level 9, we've got the Boots of Sprinting. They're just a straight upgrade on the boots, allow you to move further, help with that mobility. Next, we've got Balanced Blade, and I love to play Battle Axe with Balanced Blade. Not together, but as separate hand items. Balanced Blade is going to give you an automatic attack 4 no matter what. That's going to be great for the Mind Thief. With Mind's Weakness, you're going to just have a attack 6 whenever you want. Next is the Halberd. We can use the Halberd as well. It's a pretty good pick because it's going to make all your melees range 2. So, you know, depending on how you're playing, that can be really good as well. And then we've got the Second Chance Ring. And again, it just gives you an extra turn. I mean, it's going to be really helpful. Well, we've come to the end, and I hope this guide has really helped you unlock the full potential of the Mind Thief. Please, if you can, like the video, comment on anything that crosses your mind, and please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so that as I put out more content, you're notified.